Hey guys, Leo with Dreaming Tree. Welcome to the studio. Today we're putting together the classic cruiser card. This is based on a 1957 Chevy. We took a poll, got some feedback. There were so many different vehicles that you guys wanted, and after careful consideration, we had to choose one, and we may do some bonus ones, because the entire scene is adaptable to another car. So bear with us. Maybe we'll release some other ones, but I think this one captures, I think it just captures everything that, when you talk about classic cars, it's one of the first that comes to mind. So today we're going to start with, we're going to do things a little backwards today, just to eliminate some pieces. This little contraption here, because all three of these new cards come with a little pop-up mechanism in the center that holds a gift card, which is pretty handy. And I'm going to start off with this piece here. As you can see, it comes out like this. I've already pre-folded it. There's three folds here. You got a mountain fold, and a valley fold. Okay, and this thing actually will lay flat once we get it assembled, so we can go ahead and just connect it. On one end here, you have a handy little tab. So I already goofed up. We're going to actually begin by taking these little sections up on top that sort of reinforce this gift card holder, and we're going to glue these down. I'm just going to glue this down to itself on the inside. Okay, do the same thing on this side. I don't know why I thought could glue the tabs in there and then stick those in there. That would be near impossible. Okay, let's get that in place. And then we'll head over to this tab that I already butchered, but it's okay. No one's going to see that. You can lay this down flat, grab the other end, and just place it right onto that tab. It should match up perfectly since this piece is symmetrical. And I had a little glue shit out there. That's the worst, is when your glue spills out onto black cardstock. That is the least forgiving color. Okay, it's going to fold in like that. These two tabs at the bottom, you can fold those in. We're going to use those to adhere this to our actual card. Okay, so next, one side just has a basic shape. So we're going to take this and we're going to glue it like this. Actually, this is going to get centered on here. And I didn't get too fancy with this because it doesn't need to be fancy. We got enough going on the actual face of the card to where I don't think we really need to jazz this up at all. Okay, so that's going to go on like this, nice and centered, so that you have an equal amount of black, well in my case black, going all the way around. Watch your glue on this black cardstock. Again, it's not very forgiving. We'll press that down. Okay, and it doesn't really matter which side you put this on right now, because we can flip it around. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter. So now we're going to apply glue to one of these surfaces, like so, all the way around. And with this, you just want to make sure that you match up a little cutaway for the handle. Use that as your guide. Make sure it's flush at the top, and you can actually press this down flat on your surface. This thing needs to fold flat while it's inside the card. So this is our little novelty part of this card, little pop-up. Okay, so that's one side. Now we'll go over to the other side, which is made up of some very similar pieces, actually. Okay, we'll take this whole thing and glue it down when we're done. But we're going to start off with the black piece, and then I have this really cool, this is like a textured silver foil. Okay, let's go ahead and apply our glue to the back of this piece. And this is not going to absorb the glue as quickly, since it's not textured. So nice and easy. And this is going to go right on top of this piece flush. So that little handle is going to be showing, as well as these little dots. Okay, press that down. And next, I'm going to take this piece, and this is going to get glued on. Now this one is going to have a perfect border all the way around, and you can see these little nuts here. You want to make sure those circles are in the center of the nuts. And let's apply our glue there. And we'll actually incorporate this into the card as like the second to last step. We're going to build the 57 Chevy, but we're not going to put it on the card until everything else is in place. Okay, get that nice and centered. Now I'm putting this on a foil, and foil is slippery, so if you're doing the same thing, just make sure you don't move it around too much while it's getting set. Okay. We do have two of these little handles for the hammer. The smaller one is going to be used on the envelope. The larger one is going to be used on this toolbox. And then there's also two little handles that look the same as far as their shape. One is, in my case, like an orange. One is a black. The smaller black one is going to go on the envelope. We're kind of borrowing the motif from the toolbox and using it on the envelope itself. Okay, now obviously this is just going to go right in here like a little puzzle. So just pop that all the way in the back there. I have a little area there. It's kind of sticking up a little bit. I'm going to take a little scrap piece of paper, throw a little glue on there, tuck it right under, give that little area a little extra love, press that down and let it set. And then the handle for our screwdriver, just a few little dots of glue. And there we go. I like to think that Dad is a handyman. There we go. Cool. All right, so this is going to go on here, again, using the little hole and the handle as your guide for placement. And we're going to put glue on this surface, not on the back of that, because that little toolbox portion that we just assembled is a little bit wider than this surface. Okay, line that up as accurately as possible. Make sure it's flat. You can use your fingers to kind of feel the top of that, just to make sure that it's nice and set. There we go. And there's our cute little toolbox. Okay, again, these tabs we're going to leave alone. This element is complete. We can put that off to the side. And I know I normally do the envelopes last, but we're just going to get that out of the way so we can focus on the good stuff. Okay, so now as far as the envelope's concerned, we have the standard envelope, and then we have this additional piece here. Beautiful metallic texture there. Okay, and what we're going to do is we need to apply glue. Let me take a look at this one more time here. Hold on. Yeah, this is going to go all the way flush up against there so that we have a little bit of that sticking out, which means that we need to apply glue to this entire surface. Now, that thin little area that's cut out there, you can try to put glue on that if you want. Now, since I'm using a silver foil, if I get any glue on that foil, I did get some tips from some wonderful dreamers that told me a little bit of rubbing alcohol usually takes care of it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it alone, and I'm going to paint glue on it after I get it anchored. Okay, so you're going to take this, just push it up against the fold, make sure it's centered, make sure it's flat, and then take the top, take the flap, bring it down, and press down onto it, just to make sure that we get it nice and anchored, that we don't have a bunch of glue going all over the place. There we go. And we may need to paint a little bit of glue on that as well. That's okay. Maybe not. Yeah, that worked out really well, actually. Now, I'll grab my scrap piece that I had from earlier, and I'm just going to go very thin with the glue here. And what I'm going to do is just tuck it underneath this little flap here, and I'll press that down just very gently in those areas there. Just need a tiny bit of glue. Oh, that was a blackout. That's not good. Let's hope that doesn't continue the rest of the evening. There you go. And that looks good. Yeah, it's just a cleaner way of getting that done, and look how cool that is. And like I mentioned, well, we have one more little piece here that we need to put into place. And now this one, what you can do is just do just tiny little squiggles, little dots. I'm not overly concerned about the little points on the very edge. We can always lift those up a little bit and paint a little additional glue on there. Just get that nice and centered. Should fit in there like a little puzzle. There we go. And like I mentioned, we can take our little scrap. I'm using the part without the glue to lift it up very gently, and then I'll paint a little bit of glue on there, press it down, and just repeat that same thing on the other end. Just lift it up a little bit, add a little bit of glue, press it down. Perfect, no mess, no stress. It's looking really good. This part is a little bit, let's lift it up a little bit. Just gonna tuck some glue under right there. And press that down. There we go. Cool. All right, so we have, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the little handle of our hammer. We need to get that in place. Keep your fingers clean. I'll hold it from the straight edge side, push it in as far as it'll go to that round little edge, and then grab your handle for your screwdriver. And there we go. You know, sad to say, as I was researching Father's Day cards and ideas and such, boy, I love the fact that so many men are associated with fixing things, because I'm not the best at it. I'm learning. I've been a homeowner now for, what? I don't even know. 2012, so 12 years. You'd think I'd know how to fix more things, but all right, so we're going to bring these flaps in, and we'll apply glue to this section here. Just bring that down all the way from that point down to this point, nice and thin. Bring the flap up, press it down, give it a few seconds. And there's our beautiful envelope. I love it. I'm going to put this underneath my mat and let it really dry, which I never really do. Interesting. Okay, let's go ahead and build the card base. The car is going to be put together last. Okay, so here's how this one's going to work. Pretty straightforward, actually. This is the background we picked, and that's what's cool about this card is you can make it a daytime scene, and that, I guess that's a setting sun. So you could technically make that the moon if you want. It's a little large, but I mean it is a card. Okay, we're gonna put this first layer down. This is our background. Find a nice, interesting, vibrant background for this, because looking at 57 Chevys, they came in a lot of fun colors. We went with the quintessential turquoise. Okay. And I'm going to open up the card base. I already pre-folded it, as you can tell. I'm going to line it up in one corner there. Make sure it's nice and flush with the edge. And then it should just naturally fall into place on the bottom. And then press that down. These little cutouts here are for the caption, just to make it easier. There we go. Okay, looking good so far. And then we have this little guy here. I'm going to start off by putting this part of the road together. So we have this layer that contains part of the caption. It's going to go on top of this white layer, just like that. that also creates one of the center lanes of our road. Pretty nifty. Oh boy, I hope I'm not channeling 50s speak. Nifty? I didn't even know I just said that. That's weird. Okay, anyway. And this is going to go right on top like a little shadow. I'm going to line it up down here a little bit first. Just like that. Make sure it's nice and aligned. And you can see the caption coming together. Beautiful. Okay. Now we can take this whole piece and let's open that card up and we can pop it right on there. And you can see how that matches up with the little cutout there for the centers of the O, the A, and the D. Okay, so we can actually glue that down. Let's do that. So this card, by the way, we didn't want to put Happy Father's Day on everything, on all these projects, because we wanted these cards to be useful for other things. So, you know, telling someone they're one of a kind is perfect for Father's Day, but can also work for other occasions. And we're also including additional captions for the inside. They're going to be via print and then cut. And I think there's a total of 6 of them for this card. So this will cover birthdays, this will cover congratulations, anniversaries, all kinds of good stuff. Okay. So that is going there. And then we're going to kind of build this from the ground up. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this part and glue it onto our orange part. Got a lot of little details here. I'm going to suggest that you stay away from the windows and just go around the buildings, tops and bottoms and sides. Don't need to worry about getting in there. As long as you've got the top and the sides glued down, you're going to be in good shape. And that little light pole, leave it alone. We're going to paint that. We're going to use our painting method to glue that down. Let's just make sure that we get the buildings lined up correctly first. And careful, because it is black cardstock. We need to make sure we don't blemish it. I did ink the sun, give it a little bit of interest. I thought that gave it a nice look. And we do have a little fella there. If it cuts, cool. If it doesn't, pretty thin. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Our Cricut did a really good job of cutting all the little details on this card. And I'm just going to pop that right behind that black section. Okay. Now I'm also going to take now my little scrap piece and create some separation on the light pole. And I'm going to just paint a little bit of glue on the pole and on the lamp, and then press that into place. You don't need a lot. It's such a delicate little piece. You do not need a lot of glue for that. Look at that beautiful little skyline. Okay. All right, so next, we're going to take this and we're going to glue it right here, just like that. That's going to turn out awesome. We can put the other parts of this on once this is in place. So go ahead and apply your glue to the back of this. Nice and easy. Don't need a lot of glue here. And for this, I think we can do a few little dots on that light pole. Thin it out with your finger if you feel like maybe you got too much on there. And that's going to go flush up against that first part of the road. Okay. Press that down. Press it down your lamp. If you didn't get enough glue on it, no big deal. Grab your scrap. Tuck it under there. Just a nice little amount. You can use the clean part of your little scrap piece of paper to pull any excess glue off of there. And that's looking really cool so far. All right. Now let's take a look at the lamp. So we have this little piece here, okay? And this is gonna go at the very base of this black section here. So let's go ahead, let's just get that anchored first, and then we'll paint the lamp, since it's kind of, it's just a lot to try to cover in one fell swoop. And again, that's going to be flush with the bottom of the black. And of course, you want it to line up with the actual lamp as well. Oops. There we go. That's also going to give it some nice dimension too. All right, I'm going to grab my scrap piece here. And just like before, just kind of dab that with a little bit of glue on your scrap piece. Clean off any excess, and then it should just fall into place. And you know what? If you have a little bit of black that's kind of showing up on one of the sides, that's okay. It looks cool. Almost looks like it has a little shadow. I love it. All right, next we're going to grab this piece, and here you can take this and just apply a little bit of, just a few dots here and there. You don't need a lot. And because this is elevated already, that glue's not really going to go anywhere if it does come squirting out a little bit. Just line that up all the way down. If you don't get enough glue on it. There we go. That worked. Nice and dimensional too. That's what I love about this card. Okay, cool. All right. I'm going to add a second layer to the little light pole. Give it a little dimension. So this other little part that looks like the top of a baby bottle is going to go right there. And then we have a small little orange ellipse for the actual light. It's still small enough to where I feel like you can handle it. If not, grab your pick-me-up tool if you have one. And there you have it. Looks awesome. Okay, and then finally, last but not least, we have a white strip. It's going to be thicker on the right-hand side, and that's going to go flush on the bottom of this gray piece. Okay, so if you want, you can always just kind of put glue on half of it. And again, the thicker side is going to be over here, and that's going on the bottom, flush with the bottom of the gray piece. And I only put glue on half of it. Pardon my head if it's in the way, because I can take and use my little scrap piece to cover the rest of it. And that way, I'm not making a huge mess. And I have more control over where it ends up, which is pretty important on a card that has this level of detail for cardstock, I gotta say. All right, so a few more things that we can put together here while this is flat. All right, this little fella here, you'll see a series of little markers right above the center line here of the road. And this is going to go right in between. There's two little markers for this wheel. There's two little markers for this wheel, and then there's a little marker there for that straight edge. And you can see how you've got a nice even line here as well. So just make sure you match that up as accurately as you can. Of course, the edges, the left and right edge, are straight, and those should align with the edges of the card. Okay. So I'm going to take that. I feel like I'm doing surgery here again. And just pop that down, just like that. Perfect. All right. Another thing that we're going to do before we get into the dimensional stuff on the face of the card is insert our little panels here. Okay, so there's two of them. One has a series of markers. We're going to use that on the left-hand side. Okay, and you'll also notice, you should, yeah, it may be a little difficult if you're using a darker color like I am to see the little markers there in the corners, but they are there. What I'm going to do, actually, because for me it's easier to see them on this side. Yeah, if you look at them, if you look at the actual texture side, you can see the little markers there. They're a little more difficult to see on the inside, but they're there. Yeah, I can see them better on that side. So I'm going to start on that side because once I get this piece in, it will help me with the positioning of the other one, even though my little markers are harder to see on the other side. And this panel is a little funky in shape because it kind of extends out, and that is to help you with the positioning of the little pop-up mechanism. I should probably get my little light out here so I can see that better. Oops. There we go. Just like that. Should be centered. Nice and even. And press that down. Okay. Make sure that folds nice and flat. Okay, and then this other one, again, use those little markers to guide you, and at the same time, make sure they're on the same plane. If you are off a little bit, it's not the end of the world, but try to get it as accurate as you can. The little pop-up mechanism that's inside it's pretty forgiving, actually, because we're going to attach it to one side first, and then the other end sort of kind of just lives wherever it ends up. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Just make sure that this is nice and symmetrical on the inside. And when we put the, for those of you that made our set of cards that have little handbags inside, you'll remember that the markers were on this side. We moved them to the left because we wanted the print-to-cut elements for the card to, well, just not be interfered with by those little markers. Okay, so there's that. We're going to put some little letters together first before we get to the car. Okay, the O is pretty symmetrical. I mean, it is symmetrical. Now, this little guy, the shadow layer, it's kind of a little more pointy on the bottom. So that's how you know if you have the orientation correct. And you're going to glue it down like that so that the shadow comes out like that. Okay, so leave that in the correct orientation. Let's first off clean off our nozzle. And let's put some glue on our O. I'm going to foam square this to give this a little bit of dimension once we apply it to the card. Okay, so again, that's going to go top left as far as it'll go so that it turns out like that. Okay, I'll leave that there. And then we have the N. Now on the N, the left side has this little scripty serif, I guess they're called. And let's make sure that we have this in the correct orientation. Okay, that's going to go like that. That little serif piece there. I think that's what it's called. Because sans serif means that it doesn't have those fancy little elements. No, and I did that wrong. Hopefully that covers it all up. Let's check. Yeah, saved. Okay, and on the actual N, there's a little serif part. I hope I'm not butchering that and saying it wrong, but right here, it kind of comes out, it curves a little bit to match this shadow element. I had it upside down, but luckily it's mostly the same size, whether you have it the right way or the wrong way, so it covered up my potential mess. Okay, there we go. And the E is pretty self-explanatory. You can't glue it on upside down. It only goes on one way. And again, that's going to be top left justified. Okay. You can glue this down flat if you want. You don't have to foam square it. I just thought it would give it a nice element of dimension. Okay, so there's your one. And that's going to, you'll see a series of markers here to help you with the placement of that. But now it's time for the last little tidbit here, and that is our vehicle. So we're going to start going to start off, and we decided to use some Mylar for the window. Now it's important that we glue the Mylar down to the back of this element, because there's a section here. If you studied a 57 Chevy, you'll know that the windshield on the front kind of curves around. It was very interesting how that worked. So we're going to flip this around and we're going to put glue on pretty much the hood and these little vertical sections only. And we're going to be very gentle with the glue here so that when we do put the Mylar down, and you don't have to use the Mylar if you don't want. I just thought it was a nice touch. I'm going to flatten this out with my finger a little bit and grab your Mylar. Make sure that you have it in the correct orientation and pop it down onto the back of this. There we go. Hold it in one place. If for some reason I didn't get enough glue right at the top there, but I just wanted to hold on to something, and I'm going to use my little painting method here just to put a tiny little bit of glue right there at the very tip. And I'm going to actually apply it to the white part, not to the Mylar. And then I'm going to hold that for just a few seconds and let that really set. There we go. Okay, we don't want that Mylar coming through. That looks nice. All right, so now we have this piece here. We can actually put glue on this entire thing. Just stay away from the window. Obviously, I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the Mylar here that's not visible through the window. Down here as well. And then we have to be very careful when we apply this. Stay away from the cutouts for the window. Need some glue here. Okay, and this is going to go right onto our black piece here. This one's pretty self-explanatory as far as where it goes, because it completely matches the shape of our Chevy. There we go. Press that down very carefully. And this one we'll have to be a little extra patient with. If you're finding that Mylar is just kind of giving you a headache, just skip it. It's not a big deal. I don't think it's going to make or break the overall design. But there we go. Okay, that looks kind of weird, but that's how it goes. Okay, next we've got our beautiful turquoise. And it's going to go on here, and it will leave a little bit of that silver for the trim around the windows in place, or it'll, you know, you'll see a little bit of it. There'll be a reveal there, just a very slight amount. Okay, so it's not going to cover it completely, so just be aware of that. Okay, very carefully. The tail end you can match up perfectly flush, the front end perfectly flush, and then that again will just leave a little bit of that trim around the windows. Okay, and this might happen a few times. That small little tip there just didn't get enough glue, so I'm just going to paint a little bit of glue on there. And press that down. Look at that. Who would have thought you can get that level of detail with cardstock? I did. That's why we did it. Okay, cool. All right, so while we're at it here, let's take I guess this is a convertible because we have that white roof. So go ahead and put a little bit of glue on that. Nice and thin. I would just do a few little dots, and then I would definitely thin that out with your finger. Keep those fingers clean. Who's that? We got a new fan. Hello, new Facebook fan. I'm glad you joined because I didn't like that 666 up there. I had 70-something thousand 666. I was like, oh, I don't like that number. Go away. There we go. Okay. So that went on there nicely. If you have these vertical white areas that maybe didn't go where they wanted or needed to go, just use your little painting method and get that in place. All right, next we have some more silver, and that's going to go right here. It's going to kind of hug the bottom like so, and kind of building some additional dimension to this to make it look more 3D while adding additional colors and textures and foils and all kinds of good stuff. So it is a pretty delicate little piece, but it's doable. Okay, so if you feel like you might struggle with some of these thinner areas, leave it alone, because we can always come back to it with our little painting method. I'm going to take and start at the tail light, make sure that's lined up. Now I'm looking at the rear wheel. Now I'm looking at the front wheel. Now I'm looking at the front. Careful, make sure you don't have glue all over your fingers here if you're using foil like I am. Not all of this is going to be visible anyway. Okay, I'm going to press that down without using my fingers. And then this little area up here just did not get enough coverage. I'll grab my scrap piece, nice and thin. Tuck that under gently onto this little area here. That's all we need, just a tiny little bit of glue. Might need to nudge it up a little bit and press it down. There we go, and that looks great. Okay, so far so good. Next we have this layer, and I've got cardstock going onto glitter. It's my favorite thing in the world. I'm kidding, it's not. What I'm going to do here is actually just start by, I'm going to put glue on just the front end of this and get this anchored nicely. Put a little dot there as well. Just get that anchored on the front, and then we'll paint the back into place, because we've got to be careful since we're putting this on concentrating here. Since we're putting it on foil, that looks perfect. You can do this. You got this. I'm gonna grab a fresh piece of scrap here, because that one's kind of gloppy at this point. All right, so I'm gonna take this little guy and just gently just spread a little bit of glue right onto the rest of it. And another reason I wanted to do that was because this thin little area makes this back part sort of have a mind of its own. There we go. Okay. It's looking good. All right. A few more little pieces here. All right, so here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to take this white piece and glue it onto the black piece first. And what I'm going to do here is just do little dots, especially onto these little thin areas. And then we're going to just smush that with our fingers, thin it out, and then get that applied onto the black layer. Focus on the larger parts first, the lights, the bumper, and then do that little point, just like that. Perfect. And now, while we have it like that, we can take our silver foil piece, we'll do the same thing. Little dots here and there. You don't need to cover this entire thing with glue. And then, make sure your fingers are clean. Take and just dab that a little bit, thin it out so it doesn't go spreading all over the place. Keep your fingers clean. And that's going to go right on top here. You can see exactly where it needs to go. Just like that. Need to nudge that up a little bit. And just for good measure, I'm going to flip this around and push down from the other side so I don't blemish my foil. Okay. Very nice, Leo. Okay, we do have, if I can find it now, there's a tiny little piece here for the other headlight. And I'm just going to put a dot of glue on that little section there. You don't need a lot. Okay, and then if you need to use your pick-me-up tool for that, understandable, but I can get it with my finger. There we go. All right, so now this part, this whole thing, is going to get glued on just like this. And I would leave that that tail light, this tail light, I wouldn't glue that down. We're going to glue that down separately because, like I said, when you get into little thin areas, like that little thin area there that's holding it in place, it tends to kind of have a mind of its own. So we're going to leave that alone and just paint that down. Okay, match it up with the existing shape there. Perfect. And I'm going to flip this over, push down from the other side. There it is. Awesome. Wow, look at that. Okay. And we'll take our scrap piece of paper here and this little tail light that we didn't glue down. We'll tuck a little bit of glue right behind it. Because again, you can see how it kind of just moves wherever it pleases. We just need to get it right in position and press it down. And there is our 57 Chevy. That's awesome. Find me another 57 Chevy made out of paper that's dimensional like that. I'd love to see that. Okay, we do have some little silver elements for the wheels. Okay, this one's the smallest one. Just a few little dots of glue, actually just one in the center, and then if you just hit it with your finger, just spread it out, that should do it. The C, there's like a little letter C in there. It's just stylized. Just get that nice and centered in there. Careful if you're using foil not to blemish it. Press it down. And then we have this little guy here. Okay, I'll do the same thing, a little dot in the center, and then just spread that with my finger onto the rest of it. Wipe your finger off and just get that nice and centered on this little section here. Okay, so let's grab our card base and grab our gift card holder. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these tabs, this one here on this side, we're going to apply glue to it, and you can see how this panel kind of extends out. The tip of this should align with the tip of that little part that extends. So what we're actually going to do, let me fold this, move this out of the way so you can see it better. Okay, this is going to go, we're going to put glue here. We're just going to match it up right there, just like that. And we're going to hold that down, so let's do that. Okay, and we're going to try to get glue on this entire surface here. We want this whole thing to make nice solid contact throughout. Okay, just like that. And line it up with that little nub that comes out. And just press and hold that down. You can flatten this out now. Okay, there we go. Just keep holding. Beautiful card. Okay, and now let's make sure it closes okay. And it does. So now all that's left to do, we don't have to do anything crazy here. We're going to actually apply glue to this whole tab now. And when we close it, we'll just naturally, I'm going to tuck it in. And I'm going to get glue as close to that edge as possible. Just like that, okay? And then just take the other end, or the other side of the card, and just start pressing like right there. And I want to be patient with this to really let it completely dry, because when we open it, it's going to go like that, okay? I don't want to do anything premature to this. I'm going to let that completely set, and that gives us an opportunity right now to get our foam squares ready, get our vehicle in place. Let's flip over our Chevy and apply our foam squares. I'll do one in the back, one in the front, one in the center for good measure. Peel those off. You can glue this down flat too if you want. That's up to you. Okay, and you can see where the wheels are on the gray part. Just match that up. There we go. That's awesome. Okay, and then just need to spell 1. Hopefully we can all do that. Okay, and you can see the little markers there to help you with the placement. There's 2 little markers here for the center of the O, 1 at the bottom. And you know, the cool thing about using foam squares on this, if you do it right, meaning, and you know what I'm going to do here actually, this is not a good design. I don't know who designed this. Trying to open up my drawer while I'm sitting here is impossible. I have to stand up. I'm going to cut some of these in half to make them half the size, so that I can put one here on this thinner area. I don't want the foam square to be visible from the side, which is why I'm doing that. Okay, so we're going to pull those off. And the cool thing about this, remember that little point, how the oval has a little point? That point is at the bottom. Okay, and we're going to pop this in place, but we're not going to press it down all the way. The foam squares are kind of forgiving, meaning you can, if you don't get it in the right spot, you can pull it off without really causing any damage. It's when you really push them down and get that adhesive to really bind. To finish this off, just take your foam squares on the back of the 57 Chevy and you can align them with the little gray part here. Just match it up with where the wheels are, and then you're going to put your ONE in place, and then it's time for the big reveal. And you can see how that pops open. Looks great. And that's it. Hey, thanks for crafting along with me. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, check out some of our other videos and please consider hitting that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to visit our site and check out our free SVG section where you'll find over 140 free SVG files complete with assembly tutorials. I'll see you in the craft room.